Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the DucksNPucks podcast. This is the number one home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we are back with another jam-packed show. We have tons of stuff to discuss. We have Zellweger making his debut with the Ducks. Corey Perry is back in the league. You have Patrick Waugh is back coaching. All kinds of stuff. This is going to be a jam-packed show. Plenty of stuff to break down. We'll talk a little bit more about the games on this show. And we will go into a lot more league news, trade rumor stuff, all kinds of talk going on. But before we get to all that, Eddie, what are you drinking?
Yes, love it. Mike, I don't know if I should admit this on the show, but I'm pretty high right now. I'm high after last night's win, but we'll talk about that when we go down and break these games up. I am drinking my Forever Pink Whitney and also my Michelob, actually a Michelob Ultra Organic Seltzer. I didn't even know it was organic. I just saw cucumber lime. I thought it was good, but pretty good. Drinking that. So I'm looking forward to talking about all these new topics on this show, and definitely looking forward to talking about that Buffalo game that we went to last night.
Yes, for sure. We'll talk about how we broke our curse.
Yeah. So, Mike, let me guess. Red Bull vodka.
Oh, yeah. I already had a couple. Pre-gaming it before the show.
One day when we decide to record on a Friday, we should have like a Freaky Friday and switch up our drinks. I'll drink what you're drinking. You drink what I'm drinking.
That could be dangerous.
Oh, I know. Too much liquor for me. No way.
Oh, man. All right, so let's, this was, man, talk about eventful. You talked about the Buffalo game, which we'll get to that in a minute. But there was a lot of eventful stuff with this team. And we actually started out with the road trip. We finished off, I don't know where we finished off the last podcast. A lot of it was obviously about Drysdale and the trade. But in this last week or so, the Ducks went to Florida. And they played, obviously, Tampa Bay. They played the Florida Panthers. And, Eddie, you went to Florida, and you went there for the game against the Lightning. Do you want to, obviously the Ducks lost that game. You all know it was kind of a crappy game, 5-1. There's not really a lot of good things to talk about in that game. But do you want to talk about your trip to Florida, the game at Tampa, any of that?
Yeah, it was fun. I got a little, took 9 days off of work. Went to Florida for a few days and wanted to just to get out of California, and never been to Florida. Coincidentally, the Ducks were going to play over there, so I was like, I'm going to go to Florida and watch the Ducks play. It was fun, good experience. Stood right there by the Riverwalk. Lots of drinking, lots of inebriated time the whole time there. That was fun, but ended up going to the Tampa game. It was cool. Mike, I called an Uber. It was really cool. Called an Uber over there, which I shouldn't have. It was only a 7-8 minute walk, but called the Uber, and they picked us up in a Cadillac Escalade. I was like, holy
nice.
crap. Yes. I was like, yes, balling. So we get there, and all the fans are great. I can say that the fans and the staff at the Tampa Bay Lightning Arena, I forgot what the arena is called, but they were so nice and friendly and cool. And, I mean, you really can't talk crap against the Ducks. You're last place team. So it was a good atmosphere. That place was jam-packed. It was nuts. Beers were about $4 cheaper, so I was happy about that. It was a good experience. Despite the loss, it was good to see the Ducks play in a different venue. It was kind of my goal to start branching out more and seeing the Ducks play, or just hockey in general in different stadium or arenas. One thing I ran into, I'm walking and I ran into JoJo. That was fun. I got to talk to him during one of the intermissions, just shoot the shit, have some drinks, and just kind of enjoy hockey, talking hockey. So that was pretty fun. Love JoJo. He just exuberates the passion of hockey and the Ducks, so I love what he does. But yeah, after that, my buddy and I bar hopped, went to restaurants, and just had a great time, and it was fun. I mean, that hangover and flying back wasn't too fun, but all in all, I really had a good time. And you know what? I flew American Airlines. My buddy booked it. It wasn't too bad, American Airlines. The seats were a little uncomfortable, but the staff was great, and the flights were amazing. So I can't complain. Looking forward to my next trip. Planning it out soon. I don't know. It just might be spontaneous, and just one weekend when Ducks are playing somewhere, just kind of book tickets and go over there and watch some more Ducks somewhere else. But yeah, overall, it was a fun time, and I mean, I'll take it all day. I wish the Ducks would have came out at least swinging a little bit more, but it was still fun to watch. One thing I wanted to mention too, Killorn's the Tampa Bay Lightning gave him a nice little welcome back, and it was really good to see everyone on their feet and talking to different fans. They really love him, and they keep wishing him the best. So he had a lot of influence, and those fans still root for him over there. So that was good to see too.
Yeah, you're right. They gave him a nice little tribute video, which they also in Florida did that for Gudas too on this trip. So that you had a welcoming back party for both of them on this trip. But this game, I know you went and you had fun. You saw JoJo and hung out and whatnot. It was kind of rough. The Ducks got down 2-0 early. You had Vetrano scored in this one. But Tampa Bay just piled it on after that. There wasn't really much to talk about in this game. I guess a trend for the Ducks, unfortunately, is they were better on the special teams earlier in the season, and now that's just not quite the case. In this game, they had 3 power play goals that they gave up, all in the second period. That's really what did him in this game and kind of put out of reach. You also had Leeson getting his clock freaking cleaned in this game, getting knocked out. It looked really bad. Apparently, he got a concussion from the way he landed. If you didn't see the video, we posted it on Twitter or X or whatever, which was scary, and he got knocked out. But luckily, it seems like it wasn't a long-term thing because he's already back and playing again. So that's the good news there out of that. But a rough game overall in Tampa Bay. And then, they played in Florida on my birthday, which I was telling Eddie before the show. Usually the Ducks lose on my birthday, but this one they actually won. It was that really, really early game on MLK Day, 10 a.m. our time. Good Lord. But this was exciting because we thought Carlson was going to come back for the Tampa Bay game from those reports that we had heard, but instead he came back in this one. Like I said, they had the little welcoming back for Gudas. And we saw the Ducks team in this game that we had seen in the beginning of the season. They got behind 2-0. They fought back. They got behind 4-2. They fought back. And then Killorn ended up winning it in overtime. So a wild, wild game there, and they ended up winning. Very, very exciting, Eddie. So, I mean, they had a disappointing game in Tampa and then an exciting game against the Panthers. So they ended up splitting the 2 games in Florida.
I know. Go figure. They go and kick ass on the game I didn't go to. I almost went to the Panthers one too. Instead, my buddy's he lives over there, and he invited me a day too late when I already booked everything at Tampa, and we thought about going over there and driving over there and spending some more time to see over there. But I just figured, hey, you know what? I want to be back home by a certain time to spend time with my brother. It was the 1-year anniversary of my dad passing, so I really wanted to be back in time to spend that time with my brother. But if I didn't, I would have went to that game too. I was planning on it. Good game. Of course, a former person that played in Florida scores it and wins it. But I guess a big story here, Mike, was that whole fan throwing that water bottle at Fowler and Vetrano's response after.
Yeah, that was the funny thing. So there was videos of Vetrano floating around with him flipping off somebody in the stands. And I forget who, but a couple different... I posted it. And then a couple people sent me different messages, and they said what happened is Killorn scored that overtime winner. Then somebody in the stands threw a water bottle that hit Fowler. That's when Vetrano started flicking off somebody in the stands, and then I guess they were doing the same thing back to Vetrano and the Ducks. So it's just kind of funny. Like I wouldn't expect that like in Florida. I would expect that like if the Ducks were playing the Kings, the Blackhawks, some other kind of team, I would have expected that kind of shenanigans. But the Florida fans weren't happy. Obviously, it's the Panthers in Tampa Bay, which are rivals. So maybe with Killorn, they were kind of pissed, and they tried to hit him, but hit Fowler. I mean, I don't know, but that was like the over. I mean, obviously coming back and winning was the big story in the game, but that whole incident afterwards was like a big thing. And I ended up calling it the Frank the Tank finger, Eddie.
That should be a shirt. Man, but you know what? This is the same fan base that throws rats on the ice, so it doesn't really surprise me. And then that fan that threw the water bottle, what a complete jackass. I bet you know what? I bet you some older person, just But think about a loser. Just goes home and just hates his life, miserable, makes his family miserable. It's people that do that. Like I remember back when the Nashville Predators, they're throwing those stupid catfish on the ice. I'm thinking it's some college students, drunk, whatever. It was like some 50-something-year-old guy. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're that old, bringing a catfish in, and I don't even know what you're doing with the catfish before that. Like, I don't know. It was just dumb. But, the Frank the Tank Finger was cool. I wish it was, I want to say, 40 years ago hockey, because if that would have happened, these players would have been in the stands beating the shit out of those fans.
Yeah, that reminds me of old school hockey, like you said, for sure. I just thought it was funny. With Frank doing that, I was cracking up. I was like, "What the heck's going on?" And then that comes out of what happened. I'm like, makes sense. But you're right. The Nashville thing is pretty funny because those fans like wrap the catfish like in plastic and would put it like in their jacket or their pants. Like, talk about disgusting. And then they would go throw it on the ice. And then you got the Detroit fans, too, that do the same thing with the octopus. I'm like, I don't understand it. I get it, Detroit's original 18, the octopus. But, like, really, you're going to go buy one, put it in a plastic bag, and put it in your jacket or your pants and sneak it? I mean, like, that's just weird to me. The same thing with the catfish. That's just weird.
Putting that in your crotch and stuff, it's
gross.
It's like a disease. It's like a new disease waiting to happen. Like, man, you got to be careful in Nashville or Detroit. I think the only thing I want to throw on the ice is my hat. I've been wanting to throw a hat on the ice for years now. We'll get to that later, but I don't know. People are weird. They have some weird customs and makes them feel better in life. I don't know. That's kind of weird to me, but to each his own.
Yeah, exactly. So the Ducks, they finished that part of the road trip, and then they went to the Capitol against the Washington Capitals, and they ended up losing this game. Did not start out really well. They gave up an early goal. They only had like 3 shots on goal in the first period. They did not play well, even though they were only down by a goal, and then they ended up giving up an empty net goal. So there wasn't really a whole lot going on in this game. Unfortunately, they dropped this one, and then they had a couple days off, and they also played the Sharks. And the Sharks, who are like, one of the worst teams in the league, the Ducks lose that game too. I was surprised in the game against the Sharks. The Ducks actually had 2 goals that were reviewed, and they went both in the Ducks' favor, and they still lost this game. You had the Sharks score early on. They challenged it. It was offsides. It did not count. And then you had Lacombe getting his first goal in this game. I didn't think it, from the video, didn't go all the way across the line, but apparently from whatever angle they saw, they said it was good to go, so the goal counted, but the Ducks ended up losing to the Sharks too, which is pretty frustrating. So, just kind of a crappy road trip overall. I mean, good game on my birthday against Florida, but against the Caps, they couldn't get much going on. The Sharks, it was really scoreless for a lot of that game until the end of the second period when you saw a lot of goals. I mean, obviously they got Couture and Strome back, so they got some reinforcements in there. But, I thought they would maybe take out the Sharks, and of course they didn't. So, a couple frustrating games there, Eddie.
Yeah, that was. What's funny? I told you this too. I was supposed to go to that game. Like, my plan was to come back to spend that time with my brother that day I wanted to. I was gonna go fly that Friday to that San Jose game and watch it. My whole plan was to just kind of save money, and I didn't really want to go hang out in San Jose. I just wanted to go watch the game. I was going to fly over there the day of the game and then come back, and most airports have a USO. If you have military members, veterans, you're probably familiar with that. They have like cots and stuff you can sleep in. I was just going to sleep at the airport there and fly back. But my mom ended up coming into town, and I wanted to see her, so I just canceled that trip and didn't go. And I'm glad I didn't, because I would have been pissed off. I wanted to go and never been over there in San Jose and saw their arena. I thought the Ducks would easily beat them and get a good little win, but I would have been all pouty. I would have been all pissed off. I probably would have got annihilated drunk after that and been hung over on the airplane again. And yeah, I'm glad I didn't go. But yeah, you're right. That goal didn't look like it passed the line, across the line fully. So I'm with you on that one. But I mean, to each his own. It's hockey. Some things, it's just like the whole offside thing back in the time before was like the whole reviewable. Just things happen. Things get missed. And fortunate for him, he got his first NHL goal. But, congratulations to him on that.
Yeah, the other angle from the front, it looked like it went across, but I mean, this was the same angle going back to the nonsense earlier in the season that they've used a couple times. So I don't know. They must have had some other angle. I mean, I do believe it was a goal. I'm just saying whatever they showed on TV, the angles we saw, because you see the goalie kind of goes over the puck from that overhead, and you can't see it at the moment of truth when it's about to go over. So. But it's just weird. The Ducks had 2 goal review calls, and they both went in their favor, and they still lost that game. So very, very frustrating. They ended up coming back home. They played the Rangers, and stuff started out fantastic. I was there for this game. Henrique scores in the opening minute. He gets another goal. The Ducks are up 2-0. They're still up 2-1 in the third, and then stuff just falls apart, and they end up losing. I thought they played a pretty good game against the Rangers. The Rangers are one of the hottest teams in the league right now. Part of the problem is, again, penalties, which I kind of talked about earlier against Tampa Bay. They got in penalty trouble against New York. New York has one of the best power plays, and they made the Ducks pay in this one, and they ended up scoring 4 times in the third period to come back and rally. So that game was just extremely frustrating. I thought that they were going to lose. I thought going into the San Jose game, I thought, okay, they're going to win. They have a good chance. They end up losing, obviously. Going into this game against New York, I thought, oh, they're going to get blown out. And then the way they played in the first period, and they still had the lead after the second period, I thought, oh, man, that the Ducks could win this game. And I think that's another thing with this team is you just don't know what you're going to get every night. You play terrible against Tampa, then you play this exciting game against Florida. You have this kind of a boring game against the Caps, and then kind of a wild game against the Sharks. I mean, every night is it's just something different with this team, Eddie. You can't really predict what's going to happen. They can play a solid team or a crappy team, but I don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen, and they've been in most of these games too. Obviously, the Tampa Bay one they weren't, but Florida they were in it. The Caps they were only down by 1 late. The Sharks they were only down by 1 late. The Rangers, they were winning in the third and blew it in the end. So, I mean, they're still competitive. They're still in the games. They're still fun to watch. But it's just what is that line? It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
What's so
right?
funny? I was after you were going to be done talking, I was going to be like, the Ducks are like a box of chocolate. That was on my mind, that Forrest Gump thing. So you beat me to it, but you're 110% right on that.
Yeah, these games are just weird. I don't know what to expect anymore. And then the funny thing, and we'll talk about it now. We kind of hinted at it in the beginning, but Eddie decided to go to the game against Buffalo, and I was laughing because he hits me up during the day oh, you're gonna go? I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go, and we were kind of debating about going. Or not going. It was just dependent on my better half's schedule. She had a lot of stuff going on with work, so I wasn't really sure what the plan was. I almost hit you up to go with me, but then you got a ticket, and she said she could go. So, long story short, all 3 of us went, and Eddie and I laughed because I think we're 0-3 or something when we've gone to the games together this year. So I thought, oh man, they're gonna lose, and no, the Ducks actually play one of their best games against Buffalo. They come out with a goal in the first period. They build a 3-0 lead in the second period. They almost did blow it late in the third period, but they had a great game overall, and they end up winning. So, Eddie and I joked, though, the curse is lifted of us going to games and the Ducks losing this season. So we can, now go to any game together in the future, and I think we'll be okay. But that was a lot of fun. I mean, we all went. My wife and I have our seats, and there's a couple that sits next to us, and they usually scoot over a seat. So Eddie was able to sit down and hang, with us, and I mean, we just had a fun time, man. That was great.
Yeah, you know what's so funny? It's my whole pettiness. I had to go to pure hockey, and people that don't know, I live in, let's say, the Pomona Fairplex. If you guys, that's the kind of biggest thing I live by. I live in Claremont. That's about what I'm gonna say 25, 30 miles away from Anaheim. I'm so petty that I needed hockey pants. I roller hockey inline pants. They're ripped, and I could have ordered these a long time ago. Paid the $17, $18 in shipping, or I think $30 in shipping. I didn't order them. And my pants got worse when I played the game. It's on Sunday. Like completely a big. I can't even tape them anymore. It's just the hole so big. So like instead of me ordering it and just getting it faster, I waited till the last minute. I usually play hockey on Wednesdays. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go over to Pure Hockey, get stuff I need, avoid that whole shipping charge, and I'll just probably go to a game because I'm not gonna drive back in traffic. That's like crazy. That's why I hit up Mike. I'm like, hey Mike, you going to the game? I'm gonna go too. I was planning to go by myself if you weren't going, so it worked out perfect. I kind of crashed on Mike, and it's a better half's date night, but it worked out fine. It was fun, a great time. I couldn't have scripted it better myself. I usually don't do things Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays because work and hockey and everything, but it was fun. A great game to watch. I bought a hat thinking Zellweger was going to get that third goal, and I can finally throw a hat on the ice. I've been there a few times when a hat trick was scored, but I've never thrown my hat on the ice. So I was like hoping that would happen, but regardless, the Ducks got a good win, and we got a nice little scrap toward the end of the game, and it's just fun. We found a formula that works too. The whole musical chairs with Mike and his better half. We kept switching seats and stuff, and it seemed to be working out for us. So, good game, Mike. Thank you again for letting me tag along in that game. I couldn't have had a better Tuesday night. And I mentioned it earlier in the show. I was so high off this game last night. I couldn't sleep. I was excited, talking about it and just reading about it and going back and seeing the clips and everything. So I was just on a level 10 high after watching the Ducks beat the Sabres last night.
Yeah, it was a fun game. It was good to see the Ducks get ahead and get a lead and play well, throughout. Like we said, a little bit of a downplay towards the end there in the third period, but overall they played well. And yeah, we did a musical chairs thing during the game. Each period we kind of rotated our seats. We all sat differently each period, and I guess it worked because the Ducks ended up winning. The other big story, obviously, in this game is you had Zellweger got called up. He played in this game. He also got some power play time. He took a point shot on the power play that was blocked, but Carrot got to it and kind of baseball, batter up, knocked it in, and got a goal. So, he picked up an assist in his NHL debut. 2 shots on goal, 3 block shots, played about 14 minutes, and he looked good. Zellweger looked really good in his debut. I thought he played solid. He kept the puck in front of him. You could see his speed, his puck movement. He threw the body around a little bit out there. I was really impressed with what I saw with him playing in this game. I was excited. I thought it was great because, and we'll talk about the team here in a little bit and like what's kind of going on and the direction, I guess you could say, for the rest of the season. But this team won't make the playoffs, and they're not going to be super competitive, which is, I know it's a recurring theme we've talked about on the show all the time. But the thing is, we got to work on the progress of this team, the rebuild, and bringing Zellweger up to get in the mix. To me, was 1,000% the right decision. You've got all these guys hurt on the team right now. Let's just bring up these players. Even if you're going to stick to maybe the 10-game rule for some of them on the entry-level contracts and whatnot. However they're going to divvy up the games or whatnot. But I'm all for Verbeek bringing up players, giving them time in the NHL. Let them figure out the chemistry and the speed of the game. If they make mistakes, all that kind of stuff. So I was really excited to see him come up and play. They got the win. He had his family in the audience. They got to see his first point. So, it was a feel-good game all the way around. Gibson looked really sharp in this one too. And like Eddie talked about at the end, Gibson took a little shot to the head, and then it would just, unfolded with a couple scraps at the end of the game, which was great to see the guys stick up for each other. Carrot cracked me up. He was going after everybody on the ice during the game, and one of those scrums, he skated around the scrum, and I forgot who it was, but he went up to somebody in Buffalo, and Krebs, that's right. He went up to Krebs, and then all that kept going on again and again, and It was just a fun game. The other part of it too was my better half's favorite player right now is Gudis, so I got her a Gudis jersey, and she also wore that too. So So that I don't know if that's part of the formula too. That Eddie and I finally got a win together, but she wore the jersey and musical chairs. I don't know exact formula if we got to do that again, but it ended up working out, and so that was good. It was good to see them win, and I know some people are out there thinking about the tank and losing, getting a high draft pick. I don't really care so much about the outcome as much going on here with we're over halfway through the season now, obviously, and things are going rough. But I like seeing games like this where they fight hard, they play competitive, they stand up for each other, and they other than those few minutes in the third, they played a more complete game than they've usually played this year. I mean, we did see that in the Ranger game. They played pretty good overall, and then that one too. They could have, I think, won that one. They had McTavish got a goal, and they would have been up 3-1 in the third period in that game, but that was called back on offsides, and then the Rangers tied it up, and I feel like they took the momentum out of the Ducks there. So I think that they might have been able to beat New York, and New York's a really quality team. They just fell a little bit apart there in the last minutes of the game. So I see progress, and that's, I think, the key with this team. Yes, there's things that they need to work on, that they need to improve on. We'll kind of talk a little bit about that in a minute with the team, with the team stats and whatnot. But I liked what I saw in the last two games. Even the game in Florida too. I felt like they've been competitive and fighting it out, and I mean that's all you can really ask for the rest of the season. I mean that's what I look at is the process. And getting these younger guys involved, getting them more experience, because we're just down so many people. We're down like 160 games due to injuries or something crazy like that. I mean, it's just been stupid with that. But the fun and the excitement of going to the games and watching is still there, and then being competitive is nice to see, Eddie.
Oh, yeah. I don't really care if Ducks, like I said, if Ducks go 0-82, I'll still be a fan. I'll still want to go and watch the games. It's just fun. I love the environment. I love being around hockey fans, minus that one idiot in Florida throwing his water bottle. No, it was cool. It just happened. Like yesterday worked out perfect. Like you said, your better half had stuff to do. You almost didn't go to the game. I was contemplating if I really wanted to go drive over there just to buy some inline pants and a couple other things I needed. But it all worked out perfect, and I always say the whole universe puts you where you need to be, and we'll just kind of guide you. And I don't know, I felt really good being there. It just was really fun driving home, finally driving home with the win. That was actually good. With the whole icing on the cake for me, like going to the game and everything, was Zelly's debut. I didn't know he was going to come. I was so drained with work and just so focused on just grinding out my normal job. I didn't even read it, and I had no idea what was going on. But when I found out that I get to watch his debut game, I was like, that's awesome. That's cool. I missed Leo Carlsson's debut game, so that was I'm glad I got to be able to see him make his debut. Him played well. I didn't even know. I couldn't even tell sometimes that he was a rookie. He looked comfortable. He looked poised. He made some shots. A couple times he should have shot, but he elected to pass. He almost scored a goal on one of them. It was blocked. He looked good. He looked like he belongs there. He's a special player, and the whole hype about him. We got a low small sample size on what we're gonna get from him, so that's really cool. One thing that we didn't talk about too was Leo Carlsson almost had the goal of the year before he was taken down. Holy hell! If he would have scored that goal, that would have been just lights out goal of the year, and the confidence about him, his speed. I know listening to a podcast, I forgot which podcast I was listening to before, when he first got drafted, he said he wanted to work on his stride and his, when he first takes off, but it seems like, I don't know, Mike, I don't know, watching the game last night, him with the puck, he just coming in slow and turns on the jets, beats the players, gets right in front of them, has the dangerous threats one-on-one with the goalie. I'm so glad we picked him. I'm glad we picked him over Fentali. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with. He's going to be a franchise player for this Ducks team. I'm glad that we have him. But, man, that was an almost goal. That would have been great. We forgot to mention, too, the Ducks assistant coaches, their sons play on the Buffalo Sabres, too. So that was nice to see them to get the little family pictures and kind of go head-to-head against each other.
Yeah, it was like a family affair because you had two players on Buffalo and then you had 2 assistant coaches on the Ducks, and then of course you had the family in the stands for Zellweger as well, and family in the stands for all them. So you had a lot going on in that game against Buffalo, and it worked out well. It worked out well for everybody except for Buffalo. So, it was good. It was exciting. I was happy to, see, like you said, that, Carlson, too, the way he's been playing has been outstanding. And we had a fan question about that, too. We had our buddy Tom in the UK asked us, too, about Leo being a contender for a Calder, or would Bedard take it? And obviously Bedard's out now with his jaw injury. I think Leo has a chance, but I don't know. It depends on when Bedard gets back and what the points are going to be. I think they're both in the mix, but probably the league more leaning towards Bedard, I would think, Eddie.
Yeah, I think he was. My whole conspiracy theory thing. I think he was a lock when he got drafted first overall. When the league gave him to Chicago, and I don't care how it makes me sound, and people are like, get over it. No, I just, like I mentioned to you offline, Mike, after the draft, when you have to go and or after the whole lottery thing, when you have to go and convince and keep saying how it wasn't rigged, and all the articles coming out, it wasn't rigged, after YouTube video showing what's going on, like, come on, I'm not stupid. I don't believe in coincidences like that, but I think he makes a strong case, but I don't think he takes it. I think when Bedard comes back, if he gets even close to his point production, or even just gets to the level he is, then he's going to win it. He's locked for it. But yeah, I think Leo would have been a good a candidate. I think Minty too. He started off strong. No one really knew he was going to come in and do what he did, but I think he would have been a good candidate too. But I think it's Bedard's trophy, and the league's not going to have it any other way.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I'm not really worried about it either way. I just, for me, and I guess this kind of goes into our next segment about the team overall, like kind of what's going on, is I just want Carlson to be healthy. He had that spill, God, at the very beginning of the season. Then he had the one that you and I witnessed in person, and now he came back a little bit sooner. So I just want him to stay healthy because, looking at this team right now, it's been extremely rough for the Ducks. You have Zegras, who had ankle surgery, and he is out 6 to 8 weeks. And then you've got Minty. You talked about him recently. He's out, separated shoulder. They're talking 4 to 6 weeks. I heard it might be sooner, that he's maybe doing a little bit better. That's what happened with Carlson. Carlson came back like a week or so sooner. So that's maybe some good news. I also heard Jones, who's on the IR, might be back in about 2 weeks. So it looks like the Ducks might be able to get a couple of these guys back. And then the surprise one that came up recently was Killorn. They just announced that he has to have surgery on his left knee. Now, he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. And they talked about in the broadcast recently with the Ducks that I believe it was the game in San Jose they were talking about, where he's had this injury for a while. So it kind of leads me to believe that I'm not going to say that the Ducks are throwing in the towel necessarily for the season, but if Killorn had this nagging injury for a while and he's having surgery now, I think that they're just deciding to do it because the way that the season has gone. If the Ducks were competitive and had a chance at it, he'd probably keep fighting through it and maybe have the surgery in the off season. But they're going to do it now, and that makes sense. And Killorn's had issues too. Remember, he had his finger that was jacked up in the beginning of the season. So it's just like it's just never ending with this team. I feel like every other game we're like, who got hurt, and then in the game against Buffalo too, Terry got knocked out for a little bit in that third period. And then he went to the locker room, then came back. He was on the bench, so hopefully he's okay and good to go. It's always a good sign when they come back the same game. But not to make excuses for this team this year, but man, it's just been frustrating. We even started out the season, with the contract stuff with Drysdale and Zegras. Then Drysdale got hurt, McTavish got hurt. It just goes on and on and on. So. If Carlson, going back to, if he was able to win the Calder, cool, but I don't really care about that much. I just want this team to be healthy. I just feel, I don't know what it is, but I feel like the last 2 or 3 seasons, like we've angered the injury gods. Like we need to like sacrifice a lamb or something. I mean, I don't know. We got to do something, Eddie, because the injuries have just been beyond crazy in the last couple seasons.
How dare you talking about hurting an animal, Mike? You know I love animals. No, you know what? Yeah, I just think we're due. We're just all teams go through this. I mean, look at the. I always mention the Avalanche too, because I was like I said, if you're a new listener, I was stationed over there in Colorado. They're my second favorite team, and I watched them go through their worst franchise season ever, and how down in the dumps they were, and how they rebuilt to the whole like powerhouse team they are right now. It's kind of similar to the Ducks. Like the Ducks are just they're finding their way. They have a lot of potential, a lot of future superstar franchise type players. It's just we keep having bad luck. I don't know what's going on with the injuries, but I mean you can't really blame the injuries on anyone specific. You can't say the coaching staff, the medical staff. You skate the wrong way, you turn the wrong way, you get hit the wrong way. It's a hard hitting sport. Like I mean we're not out there playing badminton or anything like that. So our chess. Well, actually, I got hurt playing chess. Never mind. But that's a long story. But I think we're going to be due. I didn't have the Ducks making the playoffs at all. I had the Ducks being a bottom 5 team this season. Like I said numerous times before on this podcast, we're just going to find our groove. We're going to find what works for us. We have a brand new coach. We have new players coming in. We have young stars ready to emerge, waiting to make their mark. It can be one of those times where everything's going to click together. Everything's going to go, and this is going to be a thing of the past. I know it's right now. It sucks to go through, and we're as a fan sometimes it gets frustrating having to watch your team. Like I went 6 games so far this season, Mike, including the one in Tampa. I'm 2-5 now in games, 7 games. So I know it gets frustrating. It's annoying, but we have to just keep our heads up and enjoy the games. I mean, don't go expecting, Ducks are going to win. They're going to, do this and do that. Just go to the game and have fun. Mingle with people. Like I can't tell you how many games I go to. I just talk to random people. We're in the same jersey. Like it's just cool. It's just a good experience and just take it for what it is. We have a lot of potential, and we have a team that people keep talking about. Listening to other clips, other analysts, always mentioning Anaheim this, Anaheim that. We have the tools to be such a great team, but we had to let these players marinate and kind of come to form, find their game, get their mark in the NHL, and really find their groove. And once that happens, this team is just going to be completely dangerous and lights out. And I can't wait till that happens. And like I said, I keep saying, and I'll say it every single damn show, Mike, I can't wait till we look back on these shows of how bad the Ducks are, and we can talk about how great they are at that present time.
Yeah, I look forward to that too. The 2014 through 18 or 19, whatever it was, where they would win the division every year and they would make the playoffs, and it was just a matter of, okay, how far are we going to go? And I think we can get back to that. I definitely do. I think that get through this season and see what happens next year, and hopefully we get through there. And kind of leads to one question. We had Super Bajoran 31 asked, what do you think about Tracy, Regenda, Nestorenko, and those guys, coming up to the NHL, being NHL ready. Obviously, we've got Cutter Gauthier coming in the mix. He just had a hat trick in one of his games. If you missed that as well, he's looking good. So these other guys on the horizon, are they NHL ready yet? I don't think that they are. I don't know, but I think bringing them up next season, there's a good chance. I like what I saw with Zellweger. Obviously, it's a small sample size. It's just one game. He looked great. I like what I see with Gauthier. Again, it's college. It's a small sample size, and you've got these other guys down here in San Diego that are mentioned as well. So I think there's plenty of people in the pipeline to come up and get into the mix. It's just a matter of them fitting in the lineup and the roster and seeing how it all shakes out. But I think the biggest thing is going to be next season, really. And I know it sucks because we're like just over halfway through the season and we're already kind of focusing next year. But that's where we're at, the rebuild. You had Verbeek that did that a couple interviews he did on the Ducks stream and whatnot recently, talking about what's going on with, he talked about the Drysdale trade and how the team's doing. He had that other one we talked about in the John Shannon podcast too. And the Ducks have lost a lot of close games this year. And he mentioned that yes, they've had a lot of injuries, which you can't sit there and, like Eddie said, blame it on that. He's just kind of talking about what's been going on. But I look at that and I'm curious to see. Maybe some of these guys do come up this season. Maybe Tracy gets a crack this season. Regenda, maybe some of them do get a chance. If they don't, maybe next season. We know from the interview with Alexis Downey talking about Cutter, and also with Verbeek too, that once his college season's done, the plan is for him to sign his entry-level contract. And, depending on how far they go in the college playoffs, which it sounds like they can go pretty far, he may be able to come up and play with the Ducks for 1 or 2 games at the end of the season, which I'm all for that too. So for me, it's I want to see these guys, as many of these young guys coming up, trying to get into these games at the end of the season, because it's just valuable experience. These games aren't going to matter in the second half of the season in terms of making the playoffs, because that's not going to happen. But if we can get these guys up here, get this experience, and revamp this team up and get them ready for next season, I like what I see, Eddie. I think there's a lot of potential there, and let's get them into these meaningless games, get them the experience, so then next season we can really go at it.
Exactly, and so you have to keep your head up on that. I'm not saying next season is going to be different, a complete 180. We're going to be Stanley Cup contending team, but I don't think we're going to be as bad as we are right now. It's just the injuries and everything wasn't clicking. We have a new coach, a new system. We have brand new players like Killorn that's never had a different system than what he was used to in Florida. We have Gudis. We have so many different factors and so many moving parts differently coming in this team. So we have to just kind of find that identity once again and go from there. And Ducks really haven't really had that identity for a while. So getting the players that they need, the right players, not necessarily, they have the talent and the best players that they have right now in the prospect pool, but getting that kind of all blended together and finding the ingredients that works. And hopefully next season we do. It's just a lot of potential coming up from here. We made some good trade so far. I know it's hard to see Drysdale go, but I think it was the right one to do, and we have a lot of upside to Cutter coming over here, and hopefully he can produce how he knows how to produce. He actually scored a hat trick on his birthday too, so happy birthday to him as well. Maybe he scored the hat trick for you, Mike. It was your birthday, so if I listen to the podcast, like, hey, Mike's birthday, let me score a hat trick for him. But
Team Capricorn.
There we go, Team Capricorn. It sucks, but I'm happy to be a Ducks fan. I'm glad to be a Ducks fan, and I appreciate all you guys listening and keep listening to the show. We had a few people come up to us yesterday, Mike, come up to you asking about when's the next show. We actually I got to run into Mario too, that works with us too in DucksNPucks. It was good to actually finally meet him and see him. So hopefully we can all get a game together and we can all go and have some fun. But I mean, I'm still happy to be a Ducks fan. I'm still happy to go to games. I'm not one of those people who are like, I'm not going to go to the game Ducks are losing. If I feel like going to the game and time permits and if I scheduled it, I'm going to go and I'm going to have a good time, whether the Ducks win, whether the Ducks lose. It is what it is for me. I love hockey. My dad introduced me to this sport and I fell in love with it and I still love it. So I'm looking forward to the future and looking forward to finally getting out of all these injuries. I think Leeson too took a nasty hit, a fall, and I was all scared yesterday too about if he's going to get hurt. You mentioned Terry too. He left and came back. It's not going to get easier. It's only going to get rougher. It's just that's how it goes. More teams are trying to solidify their spots into a Stanley Cup or wild card or a standing in that Cup final. So it's not going to get easier. But like I keep saying day in and day out, I want this team to improve. I want them to be a better team than they are today, tomorrow. So like whatever they can do to improve one little thing they can improve against the Buffalo game when they play Dallas, do that. Special teams, maybe a different shot or something. I want to see that, but I'm still happy. I'm looking forward to see if Zelly stays up. I know we have abundance of defensemen. In my opinion, I don't think he should stay up. I think get him a few games, get him experience, have him get a little taste of it, get his beak wet, as I would say. And let him go back and keep dominating the AHL and help them out over there. And just kind of gearing and getting those fundamentals in his game. He'll get the small sample sizes of NHL. Know what he has to work on down in the AHL, and that makes him a better player. But yeah, one thing too, I mentioned to your better half. I don't know if he has those Ashton Kutcher's lips, but Zelly has those like bright red lips. I was kind of jealous. Like, man, I have to put on chapstick to have that. But no, yeah, it's let's just keep our heads up. Let's be good Ducks fans and just give the social media guys a break too. Like, I know a lot of people are just bashing them. Like, social media guys don't control the team. They're posting what they have to post. One thing too, I did want, and I keep saying now, I do want the Ducks to let these players pick their own numbers. I spoke with the Ducks a while ago regarding that about Leo Carlsson, and they said they're getting more laxed on it, and not like before that they would just assign them those random 63, 54, those kind of weird numbers that they assign, but they're getting a little bit more lax. So it's good to see that and hearing it from them. Hopefully they just, in the future, just, hey, you're on the team, you make the team. What number do you want? I think it's important to have that number you have on your back. I'm superstitious. I know a lot of hockey players are superstitious, so I would prefer to see that. 51 kind of was a weird number for Zelly, but hopefully next season when he fully makes the team, they can let him pick his number and be good to go from there.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any significance behind that number or not. I don't know if that was just what they let him get or whatnot. But you're right. A lot of times they don't get to pick what they want. I mean, it was cool to see Carlson get 91. That's the number he wanted. So, it worked out for him. So it's good. But yeah, I'm with you. Being a little bit more lax with the numbers would be great. Just real quick, just a reminder that we are part of the Old City Sports Network. We have several sponsors that are listed in the description box. One of them is the righteousfelon.com. Beef jerky, check them out. You can get a 15% discount with OCSN. We also have SeatGeek as well. You can use a promo code Old City Sports Network for 20% off on your first purchase. So some of those good sponsors that we have with Old City Sports Network. So check them out. We talked about the youth and everything with this team and bringing up the players. I'm with you too, Eddie, on Zellweger. Give him a taste, send him back down. Maybe we do this with some of the other guys that we've been talking about. The other part of this equation, and has been the big talk with the team, has been all the trade rumors. And there's just been a crap ton of them. We addressed the Zegras ones a lot on the last show. If you want to go back, you can listen to that. And we may talk a little bit about it here. But there's a lot of trade boards too out there. But there was one by The Athletic that was put out by Chris Johnston. And it had the top 30 trade targets. And it had 4 on there from the Ducks. Number 9, Adam Henrique. Number 11, Ilya Labushkin. 15, Trevor Zegras. And 20, John Gibson. Which was kind of interesting because Elliot Friedman did talk about Gibson on his podcast, 32 Thoughts, recently. And he doesn't think Gibson will be traded. So there's a lot of this stuff going on right now. It's going to be crazy for the next month or so before the trade deadline comes out. But what do you think? With all this, I really think Henrique, like if we were to make our own trade list and maybe post it, which maybe I'll do something like that. I really think Henrique is probably the main person on the Ducks team that could go. His contract's done at the end of the season. You have Silverberg, whose contract's done at the end of the season, but they're both in the $5 million range, so the Ducks would have to retain. I do think Adams' value's gone up. We saw those 2-goal game he had. He had an empty net goal in the one against Buffalo. I mean, he's been scoring a lot more. He had that hat trick earlier in the year. I definitely think his value's up there. I love the dude. I'd like to keep him on the team on a personal note, but I think he's probably up there. But what do you think? There's people out there saying Vetrano is going up there, obviously with 20-plus goals already this season. People are thinking he's in the mix. I mean, what do you think, Eddie, about some of these guys that could potentially be on the move as that trade deadline comes up?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Adam Henrique is making noise. He's making splashes. He was, a big rumor mill thing last season at the trade deadline of players that wanted to acquire him. He can provide, like I said, a bottom 6 row. Teams in the contending for a cup now have to be pretty much three centers deep. Adam Henrique can go on that second line center. He can go on that third line, provide that offense, that creativity. He can give that leadership to teams. He can provide that physicality as well. He's an all-around a good player, and he'd be an asset to any contending team. Lyubushkin, too, I remember I read something, I don't know where, I don't really care. The source things gets annoying sometimes. But I know Toronto. I know everyone says Toronto, but that's one that they were looking into. I think he's going to be gone, too. The Zegras thing, I don't think he's going to be gone. He's hurt. But even before that, I think it was just, like I said, these so-called analysts throwing spaghetti at the wall to see if it sticks, just to get more clicks to everything. I don't know, Mike. We can post something on Ducks and Pucks that McDavid is frustrated with the Oilers and wants to come to Anaheim, and that will probably blow up for a day until people realize it was bullshit. But John Gibson, though, is an interesting one. I like John Gibson. I think he's done great for the Ducks, but I think it's time to move on, a change of scenery. I don't think it's fair for him as well as a player. He's kind of stuck in this limbo. He's wasting his prime years on a rebuilding team. This team's not going to be they're not going to win a cup next season. They're not going to win a cup the following season. Like I said, there'll be much improvement, a different team next season, but it's not going to be a complete 180. This thing is checkers. Or I'm sorry, this is chess, not checkers, when it comes to being a Stanley Cup team. I think what's going to happen if they don't trade him, he's just going to kind of waste his prime years, and then once those our team is ready to compete for a cup, we're going to have Das or another goalie that in the pipeline kind of surpassing him and being that number one. And what, you just have Gibson as a 1B, and when we could have got or a 1C if Das is still in the mix. And it doesn't make sense to me why keep him. Why Verbeek? I remember listening to the interview of Verbeek saying, why would we trade a goalie like that? Like, why would you keep him when the team's this bad? He can fetch a huge return right now. There's a lot of teams that need goaltending. A lot of teams that are on the cusp of getting a wild card spot, and goaltending is a big factor for them. Why not try to make something happen? Get the best possible return you can for him right now, and make this Ducks a better team. Get better prospects, a better player that can fit with our organization. I'm not saying Gibson's doing anything wrong. I'm not saying he's at fault for anything that's going on with the Ducks right now. But what the hell is the point of keeping him? Like, it just makes no sense. Let him thrive somewhere else. Let him have a chance to win a cup. He's given everything he has his organization, and he'll be respected for that. He'll go down as probably one of the best goalies in Ducks history. Like, I mean, obviously he's not going to be up there, but he's be one of those. But let him go and get some assets for him. I don't understand why these GMs are so inclined to not let him go. Yes, he has a skill, and he can be a top goalie in the league. I think on the right team and a team in front of him, he has a Vezina season left in him. He can get that, but it's not going to happen with the Ducks. I just don't understand why they would just continuously hold on to him. But I mean, for the most part, that list is right. I don't see anyone else. I can see where guys like Leeson or Johnston, they want that like bottom heavy for the playoffs, but I can't really see anyone else going. Everyone's gonna get calls on these teams. Like, I don't know, some people on their little pages post like, oh, I'm hearing that there's calls on Zegras. Yeah, everyone's gonna get calls on anybody. It's just, that's the name of the game. If you're a GM, you should be doing your due diligence. You should be calling on and asking about any player. All other teams should be calling the Ducks like, hey, is Leo Carlson available? No. Okay, that's it. That's called business. I think the only 5 players that aren't going to get calls are those 5 players that mysteriously went on I guess the leave of absence following that sex scandal that we'll talk about later. But it's just, that's the name of the game, and you can't sit there and say like, oh well, we heard a rumor that Zegras is going to be traded, blah blah, and think you're cool because you're breaking that news. No, you're a dumbass. Like, everyone can be traded. Everyone's getting calls on everybody. That's how business works. If you need a course on business and how hockey operations works, go on YouTube or stick your head in the ground and try to see if you want to make a trade with worm A or worm B.
Yeah, it's funny seeing that lately. So much stuff came out about Zegras after the Drysdale trade, obviously, and then there were people like, well, the Ducks are taking phone calls on Zegras. I'm like, well, yeah, every team is taking phone calls on players. Like, that's just kind of common sense. But, they're all trying to, like you said, get people to read their articles or whatever on this. And I just don't see it. I actually had a chance recently to talk to Verbeek about Zegras. And I asked him, I just said, so, like, what's the deal, Pat, with these rumors with Zegras? I just asked him straight up because I was like, I didn't care. Just was like, I'll throw it out there. And he had an interesting response. He said that other teams think Zegras might be available because of the Ducks' depth at the center position. So the way he said that, he said other teams think that he might be available. So to me, it sounds like he's not available from what, if I'm reading between the lines. I mean, that's what he told me. He didn't really elaborate on that, but he was just saying, well, yeah, we have a lot of centers, so people think we're going to trade a center. I do think that's true, but I think the center you're going to trade is Henrique. That's who you're going to trade. Zegras is out, and he's not going to be back till sometime close to the trade deadline. The Ducks do have a lot of other centers, in there. They obviously Lundestrom, Carlson, Strome, Carrick, Bo Grew is a name I would watch. I don't know. I could see him being moved, and of course McTavish. So the Ducks do have a lot of centers. So if they're going to trade someone, I think they will trade a center. Henrique being one of them for sure. Could they trade some other ones? Yeah, I think they could, but they're not going to trade Carlson. I don't see them trading Zegras or McTavish. Maybe Carrick if someone wants a role-playing guy for a bottom six, type thing. So that's kind of what I look at there. I don't really see it. Everyone's going nuts over that. The other people on that list that we talked about, Labushkin, yes, I could see something going on with there. Gibson, of course, Gibson's name's out there. Freeman kind of put it down recently and said no, but you've got teams out there that need goalies that we've talked about. Carolina's still without Anderson. And their other goalie just got hurt, so he's out. New Jersey has issues. Philly is missing a goalie now because of what we'll talk about in the league news here coming up in a second. So you still have teams that need goalies. So I would look at that. The Ducks have plenty of centers, so trading Henrique to me makes the most sense of that group. If they're going to trade one, if they're going to trade two, then maybe Carrick or Grew is who I would think. I would think that they would build their center depth around Carlson, Zegras, and McTavish. I think those are the three that you want in there that you don't want to trade. But I mean, we'll find out in the next month or so what happens with this. But tons and tons of rumors out there. We had one guy, a Rush of Ducks on Instagram, asked, "Do you think the trade talk will die down when the injured players come back?" No, I don't think the trade talk is going to die down. The trade talk's going to die down when the trade deadline's over. the Ducks are going to be talked about up until the trade deadline. That's just the way it is, regardless who comes back, who doesn't come back. As soon as the Drysdale thing happened, Zegras got shortly injured after that, and these freaking rumor articles kept on coming, and these trade boards. I think it was Saravelli that had, Zegras in the top 5 and all this stuff. It's like, come on, guys. Like, let's be realistic here. So, the trade rumors aren't going to go away. It doesn't matter when these guys come back or how long they're out or whatever. The Ducks are a rebuild team. There are teams out there that are looking to make that push, to go to the Stanley Cup or make a, at least a deep run in the playoffs. So these names are going to be thrown out there. It is what it is. But my feeling from talking to Verbeek, I just didn't see any like, oh yeah, I'm really excited to trade him. It just seemed like he was kind of more like, well, they just think that, we have depth there, so we're going to move him, which it sounded like he was more dismissive of those rumors. And that's just the conversation he and I had. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe he does trade Zegras at the deadline and I completely misread what I got from him. But my feeling from when I talked to him is it wasn't like he's actively shopping him to try and go out there. Is he getting phone calls? Of course he's getting phone calls. Every GM is getting phone calls in the month or so leading up to the trade deadline in hockey and every other freaking major sport. So when I see those reports about, oh, so-and-so's taking phone calls, they're all taking phone calls like Eddie talked about. Like, just knock off with the common sense. The sun comes up in the morning, right? It's the same shit. Everybody's getting phone calls. The question is, what position are these teams in? How many phone calls are they getting? and what are they willing to move? What do they think is part of the the long-term plan for the Ducks? And I think he's still here for now. Can he be traded down the road? Yeah, maybe he does get traded down the road. One other little side question about trading before we get to league news. We had the Mighty Jerseys asked us if he said Uncle Rico gets traded, does McTavish wear an A? I think that's a high probability because you've had Henrique wearing it and a couple of the other guys wearing it. Sometimes when players are out, you'll see other people rotate and wear it. I think it's a possibility, but this kind of goes into the other thing. What I'm annoyed about is that we still don't have a team captain. So, yeah, I'm kind of tired of that. And I actually talked about this with Selanne recently, and I asked him, who do you think should be the team captain? And he mentioned Terry as one of the players that he would like to see as team captain. So that's another thing that it's obviously not going to be addressed this season. It's something that's going to be hopefully addressed next season. But McTavish is another one too that I could see possibly being captain. So to me, I think it may be between those two. If you're going to pick somebody that's you want to be with the team for a long time, obviously Terry, they signed that big long contract. It would make sense. I do like McTavish. I think McTavish has had some issues lately with his play. Too many penalties lately. You saw in that game against Buffalo, they put him kind of with more defensive line with Silverberg and Lundestrom, which was kind of interesting. He'd been playing a lot with Strome and Vetrano this year, so maybe they're trying to fix some things there. Maybe get him a little bit more, not so much in penalty trouble and a little bit more, discipline playing defense. So kind of some things there to look at. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add about the trade stuff, Eddie, and then we'll dive into the league news to wrap up the show.
Yeah, that question about a rush of Ducks, it's not going to stop. And if they're injured or not, it's not going to stop. There's 6 weeks left before the trade deadline. It's going to get worse. It's going to get crazier. I talked to Frank Saravalli too. I tried to invite him on the show, but then I found out he smokes crack. That's why he makes so outlandish trade things, and he just throws out things. So I was like, no, we don't want that person on the show. Such a joke. I'm so kidding about that. But it's not going to die down. It's going to keep going. I told you, too, at the game last night, Mike, that whole line with McTavish was kind of a weird line, but it worked. I think the whole with McTavish, he's just getting frustrated. He's letting his emotions take over. You can't blame him for that. He's still a kid. He's still learning. He's not like a seasoned vet like Getzlaf. Back when Getzlaf first started, and he was coming up, he had that temper, and he did things that he would have done differently after that. And then Getzlaf became one of the best captains. Actually, yeah, one of the best captains in Ducks history, if not the best captain in Ducks history. I'm frustrated with you on the whole "there's no captain" thing, Mike. I think we need a leader to lead us. Right now, it's just a bunch of a bunch of chefs in the kitchen, and no one really has that established thing. I could see McTavish taking on that captain leadership just the way he is. He lives and breathes hockey. He cares about the play, and he wants to just. He's like Jonathan Toews. He's Captain Serious. You don't really see him cracking jokes, or he just wants to go out there and handle business. He's an all-around great hockey player. He can do it all. And I like seeing that. He has a wicked shot. I love it. Like you said, too, the whole penalty thing is being a little bit excessive right now, but I think that's more frustration, and that's something that he's going to have to mature and learn how to deal with that. The first penalty he took, when that player tripped over the whole rally monkey? I think he was the one that got that penalty. That was something dumb, but you're right. These things are kind of the part of the growing pains too of a young player coming in the league and wanting to, especially a player like him who's been regarded as more mature than his age since he was a kid and always wanted to win and real competitive. And these are professional athletes. They don't come over here just to make a paycheck. I know, it seems weird to say, oh yeah, you're making X amount of money and you don't care if you win or lose. But most of these players, they have pride and they want to win. They want to show the product. They want to win for themselves. They want to win for their team. That logo on the front. They want to come over there and win for the fans. Like it just that's the way the nature of the game is, and it's just that's how it's gonna be. I really will be disappointed next season and let down if the Ducks don't name a captain. That's something that's extremely important, and we'll keep harping on that. Right now, it's just I think McTavish will be the captain, but not this season. But I still think they should have named the captain this season. I wrote an article too, not recently. It was a while ago, but I thought Henrique should have been named captain. He could have led the team, and he has that leadership ability. I think most players kind of see him as that captain role on this team. How he does everything. He's everywhere. He can play on any line, and he's not going to bitch if he gets dropped down to the third or fourth line. I know he's played in the fourth line a few times this season. He wants to play. He wants to win. He wants to make the players around him better. I think that's a good quality of a captain. As far as this McTavish were the A full time, I would say no, not this season. If Henrique gets traded, I think we have Gudas would be a good candidate to wear that A. Also, I think Vetrano, he leads by example on the ice. Or even Strome too. I think Strome has some little spice to his game too. And he goes out there each and every night and does his thing. But I don't think it would be... just let McTavish kind of grow into the game. And let him kind of just organically let that letter get burned on his chest. And it's going to happen. Just why rush it?
Yeah, and so I'm with you. As far as the rest of the season... Regardless who gets traded, I don't really see it being a big issue. I mean, yes, if Henrique gets traded, could McTavish have it? Yes. I think the other names you threw out there as well, Vetrano would be a good one to have at Strome as well. Gudas, my other half loves Gudas. She finally got her Gudas jersey, which she also wore at the game against Buffalo, so that was probably some good luck too. But you definitely have other people on there. I'm not really concerned about that part other than, like you said, the captain thing for next season. So it's kind of what we've got on what's going on with the Ducks right now. We'll go to the last part, and I mean, there's a lot to talk about in this league news, stuff that has just gone on. Yeah, Eddie,
before we get into the league, well, you know what, I want to be able to sorry to cut you off, Mike. I want to be able to say one thing we forgot to mention. And you fans are probably you probably heard it right now already. The new intro song, Mike. Holy yeah. It got me fired up when you said it to me earlier. I was at work sitting here grinding. I do cybersecurity if you guys don't know. I'm not going to tell you where I work, but that's what I do. It's boring. It's dry work, but I'm over here just doing my thing on the computer. I see Mike's messages. I was like, what the heck? Send him the fire emojis and whatnot. But yeah, Mike, good job on the new intro. And like I said, thank you guys for following, and more changes to come on the show and on Ducks and Pucks. But yeah, I wanted to just make sure that we talked about that. But man, that intro gets me fired up.
Yeah, we changed up, if you didn't notice the beginning, a little bit. It's the same kind of script, obviously, with Phil Hewlett talking, but a little bit different music. Just we've kind of had the same thing for a while. We're like, hey, let's change it up. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let us know if you like it, because the other one is I don't even know how long we've had the other one, but it's been a while. So so wrapping up the show here, the league news, a lot of stuff going on. First off, Corey Perry was back in the news. He ended up signing a 1-year deal with Edmonton, which is kind of weird. You think about the comeback on Catella. I wonder how those guys feel with him on the team, but he's on Edmonton now. We still don't know exactly what happened in Chicago. John Scott did talk about on his podcast about him getting drunk and possibly making a pass at a media person. But then now he posted that he retracted that. So I don't know. I think there's some truth to that somewhere in there, because that's kind of what we heard before, is that he got a little bit tipsy and kind of acted a fool, apparently. But regardless, he's back in the league. He's with the Oilers. The Ducks and the Oilers will play at Honda Center on February 9th. So I anticipate Perry will be in the building. Be interesting to see how everybody reacts and whatnot. But interesting. I didn't know if he was going to be back or not this season, Eddie, and here he is. So what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I feel that something should have been made public, especially with everything going on with, and we'll talk about this later with the NHL, with Chicago and all that stuff. Just be open and honest what happened. Like, if you can't do that and bring that public, then you're no better than the NBA and the NFL that had these numerous issues going on for so many years, and they swept it under the rug. I think there's some truth to John Scott, what he said. You're not going to say something and then retract it. I think he had an oh shit moment. He said something he probably didn't mean to say, which happens to all of us. And Perry, if he got drunk and made a pass, I mean, it shit happens. No, I'm not saying that if he was being totally disrespectful and disrespecting the women, but if he's like, hey, what's your name? Or he was talking and she said no and he just went away, I don't see an issue with that. Like, I went up to girls at bars before when I was drinking. I talked to them. Either they talk to me or they say they're not interested and I walk away. I say sorry, sorry, or, walk away. Just normal. I don't know what happened. I can't really say more. I think if it was more than just a pass and he really was being disrespectful to a woman, I don't think he would have been back in the league. Nor where he should have been back in the league if that happened. He shouldn't have been. But I think it was just one of those things that just happens to the best of us. If anyone's ever drank, I think it happens to a lot of people. If you don't drink, that's good for you. But think of this in your life growing up. Have you ever made a mistake, regretted something? It just happens. Like, I regret things now as an adult, what I did as a kid, being disrespectful with my mom, being selfish sometimes to my dad when I was like 10 or 11, 12, 13 years old. It's just, that's the nature of life. That's growing up. Perry's never really had anything, or never had anything like this throughout this whole entire career, and then all of a sudden this. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird that John Scott went back on his thing. So I don't know, like, if it was like he knew what was going on, it was like told to him in confidence, and he said it on the show, whatever. Perry's back. He signed with the Edmonton Oilers. It's funny because all the history that we have with the Edmonton Oilers. I was listening to the his press interview too. And apparently he almost got traded to the Edmonton Oilers when the Ducks had him. They almost traded him along with the first-round pick for Mike Comrie back before he signed with the Ducks. But I guess there was a contract dispute with Mike Comrie, so that didn't happen. There's some kind of contract with money with Edmonton. Perry was asked about Kessler's goal if it counted. He was kind of chuckling and made comments like it passed the line. Toronto seemed to count it. The league made it count, and we ended up moving on, so it counted. So that was kind of an icebreaker. They did ask him about the whole incident that happened over there with Chicago. Of course, he declined to talk about it. And then they asked him if he's going to file a grievance to get that money back from Chicago, and he declined to talk about it. Him declining to talk about it is kind of making it seem like he's going to him and his agent will probably file a grievance. But I don't know, I guess my whole thing with this, Mike, I think the league should be more transparent on things like this. I know people on the flip side of the coin saying that these players deserve their privacy and it's none of our business. But you know what? You're a professional athlete. You chose that, just like actors and all that stuff like that. I'm not saying be paparazzi and go take a picture while they're taking a piss or something. But the way that some of these incidents are going with the league, I think it's important to be transparent with everyone and be open. Like, hey, this is what happened. This player accepted responsibility for it. He got help for X, Y, and Z. But here's the incident in question. Everyone shuts the fuck up about it. No one's talking about Bedard's mom or crap like that. It's done and over with. You can nip it in the bud right there. But the league, how they handle things, it's just so crazy because now you leave it to interpretation and let all these idiots on social media blow it up with stupid-ass rumors, and now it just blows up something it shouldn't have blown up with when it could have been easily just, hey, here's what happened. Here's our official press release. Perry, you know what? Yeah, I understand. You're ashamed of what you did. I get it. but you're a professional athlete. If you want to move on in this league, let everyone know, let all the air out. Cool. You'll have, no matter what, on social media, you're never going to please anybody. You can be the Pope on social media, and there's always going to be someone that's going to bitch and cry about it and always have something to say. That's the nature of the game. If you don't like it, get off social media, go live in Antarctica, and I'll probably join you one day over there, because I'm getting tired of people. I know in like 50 years when I'm older, I'm not going to be around anyone. I'll just be by myself over there in Antarctica. But I think, I think it's important to be transparent, but I'm happy for Perry. I always said he wasn't my favorite Duck on the team. I'm one of those fans that never really liked. I mean, didn't like Perry, but he wasn't one of my favorites on the team. But I think Edmonton is going to be good with Perry. With the whole Evander Kane, they had someone worse. I still have my regards for him, but I mean, he's doing well over there. So hopefully Perry he can put this behind him and people can stop speculating. But I really do hope that. I mean, Perry himself too. I hope that one day when he's done or whatever, he can just, hey, here's what happened. I learned from it. I drank too much. I realized I was having some issues. I got help, and boom, he's a man about it, and that was it. But yeah, well, welcome back to the league, Perry. I think he's wearing number 90. I checked earlier. He's wearing number 90 with Edmonton. So my question to you: what do you think the reaction for fans are going to be when he comes back to Honda Center? Obviously, him in an Edmonton Oilers jersey is going to be weird. And you know what, fans, too? Real quick, random thought. And I would love you guys for this. Everyone bring Comeback on Catella posters and show Perry's goal. That'd be awesome. But, yeah, Mike, what do you think the fans are going to react to? Or how are they going to react when Perry comes back on the 9th?
I think most of them will be excited. I think to see him and come back. It seems like a lot of the fan base is still really, pumped up when you talk about Perry and they like Perry. For me, it's kind of a mix. He didn't sign with the Kings, thank God. I would have really been pissed off about that. I mean, he was with Chicago, which that didn't really make me happy. Edmonton's kind of like, eh. But Edmonton's on a roll right now. I mean, they're kicking the crap out of everybody. He has a great chance, with that team to go win a cup. So I see why he picked that team. I mean, yeah, they do choke. We all know that Edmonton's choked a lot. But I mean, right now, they're playing some pretty damn good hockey. So I don't blame him for going there. But I'm with you. He wasn't like my favorite player of all time or whatnot. I mean, I liked him. I was glad he was on the team. I thought he did a lot of good things. But I don't know. I think a lot of people will probably be happy to see him back playing. There might be a couple boo birds, out there. But I'm definitely going to be at the game. It's going to be exciting to see him back playing and see how it unfolds. But the bigger picture is what you talked about, the transparency. It's extremely frustrating with that. And that leads with the other thing that just came up too, which it's not really new, but it's come up again, is the whole World Junior thing with the Team Canada 2018. That resurfaced, and apparently the London Police Department has asked for 5 players to come turn themselves in for this whole sexual assault thing. And that's London in Ontario, Canada, by the way, not England, just so we're straight on that. But you have these players, and then magically you have 4 players in the NHL and 1 in the Swiss League that all are asking for taking a timeout or a leave of absence for personal reasons. And there are 5 players who happen to all be on the 2018 Canadian hockey team for the World Juniors. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. It's not related. But, this whole thing, that's the part that gives it a bad name, unfortunately, for this sport. At the junior level, the NHL level, AHL level, whatever, just the sport of hockey in general. You have this stuff with Perry. You have the other stuff, sexual assault type stuff that happened with the Blackhawks back in the day. You've got this stuff that's resurfaced again. I thought it went away, but now it sounds like they're going forward with it. I guess the police department's supposed to have some kind of press conference in the beginning of February, and it's another black mark. I mean, it's just that part's what's frustrating for me, is I would like them to be more upfront about that. And it does go with what Eddie said. I mean, the internet's the internet. We've talked about social media, social media. People are going to say what they're going to say. People have an opinion. People, especially on Twitter, like to attack other people, especially fans of their own fan base attack other fans, which I think is pathetic. But and there's people on there that just go on there to stir up trouble anyways on any social media. But the problem is when you have these incidents, this stuff with Perry, this other sexual assault stuff, and not naming the names or going into the stuff. It's just dumb because people figure out some of the stuff already. Like pretty much everybody figured out the 5 players' names right away. I mean, it didn't take long. But the other part of it is you're giving more ammo to the environment or the system, whatever you want to call it, that we have in place, which is the regular media and social media. So if you have a situation that comes up and you don't provide details, then it gets crazy and gets out of hand. And because we have so many social media platforms now, that's what's going to happen, and it runs rampant, as opposed to coming out there and saying, hey, yeah, I got drunk too much and I said some appropriate stuff to somebody, or I got in a fight, or whatever it was, right? If it's a legal thing, then okay, and you're going on trial, then obviously it's a little bit different. You can't quite talk about that because you got to go to trial. You got to figure that kind of stuff out too. But you could still be at least a little bit more upfront that, hey, some kind of incident happened, it involved whoever it involved, and now it's going to go into a court case, and then it comes out that way. And I feel what's frustrating is, like Eddie talked about, you have the other sports, basketball and football, big time, try to cover up stuff and keep it under the rug. And now you've got these different allegations that have come up with hockey at different levels for various things, not just the same thing. And that's the part that's frustrating. It's better just to come out and say, hey, this is what's going on. Other than if it's, like I said, something for legal reasons, then you let them know. Because, I mean, the internet's just going to run wild. And like I said, as soon as this thing came out against the World Juniors again, I think it was like within an hour someone posted, well, these 5 guys took a leave of absence and they were on the team. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, guys. People are going to figure out some stuff, and then the other stuff they're just going to make up. And so you're going to have to control, what the stuff that's made up. You're never going to be able to control it 100%, just like Eddie said. People are going to air out their opinions. They're going to talk out the side of their mouth. They're going to throw out weird stuff to get likes and retweets and shares and all this other kind of stuff. But you can at least minimize it by coming out and saying, hey, this is what happened, and we're moving forward. Or, yes, this is what I can tell you now, and we have to go to court, or whatever it is. So, it's just kind of frustrating for me. You want people to be better, and it's just tough. It's a tough, pill to swallow when you see these things going on like that, and then people run wild with it, because then you yourself have to kind of audit what you read and be careful of what you reshare. And sometimes I'll talk with other people about stuff, and sometimes it's complete BS. Other times we don't know what it is, and I don't dare want to post it because I don't want to contribute to that. I'd rather try to talk privately with some people and see if I could figure out what they're hearing or whatnot. But that's not what people do. They post stuff and they run wild, like, oh, this is what happened, and then everybody goes nuts. Like Eddie talked about the thing with Bedard and the mom and all that. Like, that was just disgusting and complete bullshit. And and I forget who started that nonsense, but you get stuff like that going, and it's frustrating. So we'll have to see what plays out. I don't know if we'll ever hear the full truth about what happened with Perry, but if it was something super serious, I don't think he'd be back in the league and be allowed to play again. Eddie mentioned that as well, so I don't see that as being how bad it was. Obviously he did something, but you've got that, and then this thing with the World Junior players, it's just going to have to play out. It's now a criminal legal matter. So I don't know all the facts behind it. I just remember it kept getting resurfaced again and again. And now the London Police Department feels that they have enough justification to charge these 5 people with whatever the exact allegations are. So it's going to be a distraction for a couple of these NHL teams, the Flyers and the Devils and whatnot, that are going to be missing some of these players. But it's going to have to play out in a court of law And then we'll kind of see what happens there. But kind of a dark cloud, unfortunately, in the sport of hockey right now, Eddie.
Yeah, it's really it's sad, and I'm a really big advocate about sexual assault against that. So it's really it's kind of heartbreaking just knowing that if it's true and there's a victim out there, that's I don't like. Right now we don't really know much. You can go and I've been reading articles. I'm not going to go into detail of what I read. You can do that. I know if we have listeners that have that are victims of sexual assault, it might trigger something. So I'm not going to go and talk about that on the show. I do want to say this before I get into this conversation that if you are a victim, there's help available. The National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-4673. Or talk to someone, or just know you have a voice out there. Don't think you're alone. Don't think you have to hide. Don't think you did anything wrong. So if you are a victim listening to the show, there's people out there, there's resources. So make sure you make your voice heard because you shouldn't be quiet. And if someone did harm you in any way, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. In my opinion, I think they should be hung and dead. But that's just my opinion. But this whole issue, Mike, it just goes back with transparency. This whole sexual assault thing. I hate that we have to talk about this, but it's league news. It's trending right now, and it's just unfortunate that this has to happen. I get a lot of teams are really not. They can't really go out there and say the reason why it's an official police investigation. There's a defamation. There's libel issues that can happen with this, especially if it's an ongoing investigation, and they're not really. It's just. I guess it's not they're not guilty yet in the court of law. So I get why they're more kind of hush on this, minus the Perry thing, but it's just sad to see. I really hope part of me hope it's not true, and part of me hope that a person wouldn't lie about and put these players into that. But if it is true and these players are guilty of it, then I really hope that they're punished. That there's no other way about it. I don't care how their status is in the league. I don't care what they are. I don't care how sorry. No, there's no way you could be sorry about sexual assault or anything like that. You're a piece of shit. You deserve everything you get, everything bad in your life you get. But I think it's safe to say that these players just randomly go on a leave of absence when the London police, Ontario police in Canada want 5 players to come in and talk about that. It's just. We're not stupid. Like everyone can kind of know that what's going on. One thing I want to point out, part of that junior team was Sam Still and Max Comtois, former Ducks players. They weren't named in this. They didn't take any leave. They're still doing regular duties and stuff. And then Cale Makar too. You know what was sickening, Mike? A lot of people were hoping and saying on Twitter that they hope Cale Makar was named in this whole sexual assault thing. Like wanting him to be part of it. Like I don't understand Twitter. I don't know what makes you guys on Twitter or social media think you're so superior and you can run your goddamn mouth without consequence. I guess behind the screen. I've been attacked. I'm not really attacked. I've been accused of stuff on Twitter, as most recently. And I try to respond the most respectful and cordial way to have a conversation. But I'm like, fuck that, dude. Like if you have an issue, come to my face and say, I'm so tired of these idiots on social media thinking they can get away with running their mouths and saying crap and thinking that they're in their little high horse which are hiding behind a screen. It's time to stop. It's just this whole social media game irritates me. And I'm not younger. I just turned 37 now. I'm at that age where, and I grew up where if you have something to say to someone, you say it to their face and you handle it like a man or a woman. But it's just crazy how social media blows up, and I don't know, that just kind of triggered me wrong where people were saying, oh, I hope Cale Makar was part of this sexual assault. You would hope a player was part of a sexual assault? That's just crazy, Mike. Like sometimes I kind of like what am I doing on social media? Like why can't I just delete it all and just kind of just live my life normally? And it's just crazy how people get. I really feel if this whole action is true, like my thoughts and prayers are to the victim, and I really hope that she can get the justice that she deserves. And if on the flip side, if it was just a made up excuse just for money, which happens before, then I hope these players are exonerated. But it's just of things I'm reading, Mike, it's not looking good. and it's a really black eye to the league and hockey in general. That's just I don't know what more to say, but it's time to just be fully transparent with this National Hockey League. Like be better than the sport. You've always been better than those top sports that try to sweep things under the rug. Just kind of set the standard and tone, and things like Perry, things that have issues that going on. Just time to be transparent. Okay, if he did make a pass at someone, if he did try to have an altercation with an employee, or if he did was just out of control drunk, just say it. There's nothing wrong with it. He fixed it. He got help. He wouldn't have got signed with the team if there wasn't something that was fixed with him. It's just time to be transparent about things. I'm tired of this whole like, oh, we're not going to discuss it. We're not going to discuss it. We're going to sweep it under the rug, especially Chicago. Like, and like you said, the whole Bedard mom thing. I know it was a big joke, but that's still freaking disgusting. That he's still a kid, and you're talking about his mom, and he can't defend himself because he's a professional athlete. He's going to be a franchise top player in this league, and he can't go out there and say F you guys and screw you guys for talking about my mom. How do you think that affects him? Like, how do you feel if he's talking about your guys' mom or your guys' father or brother or sister? It's just, I think the whole thing of it too, Mike, is like people on social media have to be better. Like everyone. It's not just the whole league. It's everyone has to be better.
Yeah, it's a great point, man. I mean that's the thing, and it all kind of interlocks and feeds into each other. If you have a situation where they're not giving out as much information, then people start running with stuff even more. And like you said, you have people that make up allegations. You have people that could get involved in things and it ruins their life. You have people talking about other people's family members and stuff like that. If I was an athlete, I wouldn't even be on social media. I see no desire to do it. I don't even have like some of the social media accounts. I don't have personal accounts. I have a couple accounts that are for hockey, and that's our sports, and that's really it. I have a personal Facebook because I keep in contact with a lot of people, family and friends that I've known for a long time. But yeah, you get wrapped into these things, and yeah, I think social media is good in terms of news and maybe staying connected with people that and whatnot. But then the bad side is this side of it too, where you have these situations that come up and then it spirals out of control. And you got to remember that you may think it's funny you throw out a post or whatever, but I mean you're talking about someone else's life or their family and stuff that's going on, and it can affect those people too. So. That's the thing. But I think you summed it up right. You just got to be better in general. You put out negative energy, you're probably going to get negative energy back. You put out positive, you're going to get positive. Maybe not all the time, but I rather put out positive energy. That's just kind of the way I operate. So, a couple other like kind of quick things to kind of wrap up the show is you've got Patrick Waugh that's also back in the league, kind of a controversial guy, but he's now the coach of the Islanders, and obviously his connections to Colorado. What did you think about this, Eddie? I mean, this kind of surprised me. I didn't think he would come back and coach at all, and now he's back.
It's weird to see him in those colors. I'm glad he's back in the league. Patrick Waugh was probably one of my favorite players growing up. Him and Selanne were my idols. I always grew up, I loved the goaltending position. I tried playing it, I sucked at it. But it's just crazy to see him coach the Islanders. It's crazy to see him with the Islanders too, with their GM. He's real strict. He's real by the, it's my way or the highway. He makes his players clean shaven and everything. Patrick Waugh's issues with the Avalanche, where he didn't have any control. He was like vice president of the team. He wanted more control. When I was over there, I got to watch him, and I actually ran into him one day. I took a wrong turn at the practice facility and bumped into him, and I was kind of starstruck because that's a goalie, a guy I grew up watching it and liked. He's a hard coach, but the whole issue was he wanted more control. And back in Colorado, when I was there, talking to people that write for the team at that time, they were saying one of the issues with Nick Holden, when Sakic traded Nick Holden to the New York Rangers, that kind of like pissed off Patrick Waugh because he wasn't part of that, and he wanted more control of the team. It was kind of weird that the Islanders, he took a job with the Islanders because he's not going to have any control. I think Lou Lamoriello kind kind of solidified that, saying, "Hey, this is I'm the man here. You're here to coach. You're not gonna have control of who I pick up, who I trade. Shave your face, shave your beard. He's all clean shaven now." So Wall did admit too that he was he made some mistakes in Colorado. On top of that too, of just kind of abruptly leaving the team because he didn't get what he wanted. So I mean, we all grow. Like no matter how old you are, you can be the oldest person or the youngest person. There's like always room to learn. Every single day you learn something new. So I wish him all the best, but it just seems really weird to see him in New York Islanders colors. Varlamov was happy. Semyon Varlamov, he used to play for the Avalanche. Patrick Wall coached him too, so he was kind of I think a quote saying he had goosebumps knowing that Patrick Wall was going to come back and coach him again. So that was good to see. I'm glad to see him back in the league. He's a legend, and I think he learned from his mistakes. He went down to the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and I guess those kids taught him as much as he taught them too. So I think he's going to be a good coach. I think people are going to come in there and respect him. And I mean, he's Patrick Wall. What's not the respect for him? And I hope he has the success and he can help lead the Islanders to at least get into the playoffs or a wild card spot, or next season kind of change the whole dynamic of the team after they fired Lane Lambert.
Yeah, it's weird seeing Patrick Waugh and Islanders blue and orange.
I don't like it.
And then Perry and Edmonton blue and orange. Very, very weird seeing these guys back.
It's like the multiverse, yeah. Mike. It's like the whole multiverse. Like, yeah, what's going on? Are we gonna see Getzlaf go and coach the Kings or be an advisor for the Kings next? Like, I would probably die.
Yeah, it's just it's been a weird week or two in the world of hockey. It's just been weird. Another thing that came up too is they released the All-Star jerseys. Oh my God, these things are horrible. Like yellow, red, blue. Looks like a kid drew some stars and threw them on a shirt. I mean, this is bad. It's just all the way bad. I mean, I'm glad Vetrano made the team. They did all the voting. No other Ducks players got on there. But holy crap, man. I mean, some of the All-Star jerseys are kind of some of them are better than others. But, man, this... talking about another weird sight lately with hockey. I mean, dude, what did you think these were as bad as I thought they were, Eddie?
Oh, they're terrible. I just, you know what? One of those things. It's like when I saw these happen, I was hungover when I saw them. I was on vacation. I'm like, this can't be true. This is like, what's going on? Just like when the Ducks announced they traded Jamie Drysdale, I thought it was fake. I thought they were hacked. And then again, I thought it was hacked when Patrick Waugh went to the Islanders. I don't like them. They're terrible. They're ugly. I guess Justin Bieber had some influence in them. I don't know if he was smoking that crack or something, but yeah, they're not really good. I guess it's a whole, like, those jerseys reflect the whole All-Star game because it's kind of a joke anyways, and a lot of players don't want to be there. They'd rather have that time with their families and stuff like that. But I guess we could just hopefully the women's, when they play their game, they have different jerseys and it can kind of top what we see in the All-Star game. They did announce their captains too, Mike. They did announce Justin Bieber, of course, is going to be one of the celebrity captains. Will Arnett, Tate McCree. I don't really know a lot about her, but obviously she's headlining to perform at the All-Star game too. So I'll probably look her up and check out some of her music, just to kind of broaden my horizon. And then Michael Bublé. Michael Bublé is like a fanboy. I heard him on one of the other podcasts, and he was talking about, he just loves the game. He loves hockey, and I think he'll be good, being one of the celebrity captains. I'll probably skip out on the All-Star game like I always do. I don't really like it. It's kind of whatever to me. I think it's cool, the whole $1 million skills thing competition. That's gonna be cool. I'll probably watch the women's when they compete, and the mascot on the mascots too. I'll probably watch that, but I don't know. We just hopefully that weekend will go by fast, and we'll just get back to some real hockey, and hopefully no one gets hurt. Like, we all know what happened to Jonas Hiller at the All-Star game. He was never the same, and he had to pretty much be done with the NHL after that. So, hopefully, you know what? Hopefully, when that weekend comes, Mike, they'll be like April Fools or like early April Fools. Here's the real jerseys, but
Yeah, wishful thinking. Well, another wishful thinking, I guess, is the last thing we'll cover is the expansion of the NHL. You know about the OC Vibe and how they're building that all up. Apparently, they are building up an area in downtown Atlanta as well. There's been talk about them trying to bring a team back there again. And now the latest other city has been Salt Lake City. Same thing, that they're talking about building up an area and having a team there. So kind of interesting. We've heard some of these cities thrown out there before. They've talked about Quebec getting another team back. Obviously, they had the Nordiques back in the day. I think it's interesting. The Salt Lake City one, if it can work, I'm good with it. I think it's great. Atlanta, they tried it and it didn't work, so I don't know how if that's going to work. And I'm still kind of curious what's going to happen with the Coyotes too. That it's been kind of a mess over there. They're still trying to figure out where they're going to play. Are they really going to stay in Arizona? Are they going to try to go to one of the these other cities or whatnot? But what do you think? You think hockey comes to Salt Lake, Eddie, or what other cities would you think?
I don't know. I don't really see Salt Lake over there having a. I mean, yeah, the Olympics and everything they have over there, but I think that's what they're known for. I don't think they can have a successful hockey team. I may be wrong. Atlanta, like how many times are you going to strike out? They have the Calgary. Well, yeah, the Flames over there. Atlanta Flames. I'm sorry, not Calgary. The Atlanta Flames. They had the Thrashers, which was an underrated logo. That logo is pretty awesome. Like, what are you going to put next? Like Atlanta third chances? Like Atlanta threes? I don't know. I know Houston's been a big one, I've heard. It's not going to happen, but I'm one of the people that would like Winnipeg to have, or not Winnipeg, I'm sorry, Quebec to have those Nordiques back, because the jerseys are amazing, and that'd be cool. But the league wants to capitalize their money and everything, and putting a team in Canada is not going to get them the revenue that they can get that come over here. I don't know which other teams, which other cities that would be good enough to get an NHL franchise. Houston, I don't know. I mean, we can do, I guess, throw another team in LA. They have two basketball teams, right? They have two. They have two baseball teams apparently. Los Angeles Angels and Los Angeles Dodgers. Why not the Los Angeles Coyotes? I don't know if that makes sense. Or Los Angeles Baldwin Hills. I don't know. I'm all for an expansion team to make the league grow, but I don't know if it's the right time right now to do it. And I doubt that the Salt Lake City can kind of be successful. We just had Seattle come in not too long ago. Just let this ride for a little bit and see where it goes, and then we can find out what's going to happen with not the college team. Well, sort of the college team, the Arizona, whatever you call them, which college team, and go from there. The whole issue is, Mike, the Coyotes don't have a venue to play in. Like, it's just there hasn't been a proposed thing for them to go, and I don't know why they're so holding on to them of staying in Arizona. Why? Like, I think if this would have happened to Anaheim, they would have been toast and done. LA would have had another team. Los Angeles Ducks of Anaheim or some crap like that. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens after this season and what's going to happen with Arizona, because you can't play at a college stadium forever. You have to have some kind of thing, and who knows? The league might just throw a little audible and do like a little, not expansion, but just switch their team like they did with the Thrashers. Like one day it was the Atlanta Thrashers, next day they were the Winnipeg Jets. So wait and see. So yeah,
I agree.
Nice. I'll be nice. I don't want to talk crap about Arizona Coyote that much. You know what though, Mike, about Arizona? Those jerseys, the Kachina jerseys they're called. They're so sick. I like them a lot. So that's one positive thing I can say about the Coyotes.
Yeah, I'm with you. You would think maybe they'd go towards the Phoenix area or something. I don't know. That's where you got the majority of the population in Arizona. But
how about Bullhead, Arizona?
yeah, right. This is too close to Vegas. Yeah, but it'll be interesting. So you got them building up Atlanta, they're building up Salt Lake City. It seems like that's kind of a trend lately, is that these bigger metropolitan areas are trying to build up places where you can go for sports, and then concerts and eating and movies and shopping and all that kind of stuff. So just some stuff to monitor with the league. But yeah, we're gonna, man, we're almost at 2 hours. We're gonna wrap up the show. We had just a lot of stuff came up, especially in the last, I'd say, 3-4 days. So appreciate you guys listening. We're still doing the show pretty much every 2 weeks. Remember, we're part of the Old City Sports Network. Check us out on all the platforms. All the sponsors are listed in the description box down there. And, we just appreciate your support. And let's go Ducks.